stand for the little girl who was murdered and all alone? Who will stand for the little girl who is now dead without her own? Who will stand for the little girl who came from humble means? Who will stand for the little girl who fulfilled all of her dreams? Who will stand for the little girl who achieved much success? Who will stand for the little girl whose love for Austin was endless? Who will stand for Tex McIver? She knew betrayal, hurt, and pain. He was just coveting her money again and again. Who will stand for Tex McIver? A great woman she tried to be. Who will stand for truth and justice? Truth and justice. As she cries out, who will stand for me? I have been waiting a long time to talk to you all about the facts and the circumstances of this case. They are clear, they are compelling, they are overwhelming, and they establish the guilt of this defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. And I echo everything that my colleagues have said already. I can't say another word until I just stop and say thank you. Just thank you. I saw you paying attention. I know you got lots of notes. I tried to take a lot of notes. I thought there were some important things that you needed to jot down. Because I know when you get in the back and you start your deliberations, you all are the collective memory of what has happened during this trial. You all make up the microcosm that is our community, Fulton County. And although I didn't have a long time to talk to you all individually, this is the one thing I know about each and every one of you. Y'all are smart. You are rooted in the community. And there is a moral cord that runs through each and every one of you that will require you to just do the right thing. Because you all are the right people who are in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk to you about the facts. I'm going to talk to you about the facts and how what you have heard during this trial proves that this defendant is guilty, no matter what the defense attorneys have been telling you for the last couple of hours. And in fact, when I listen to their argument, it reminds me of a story of an author whose name is Victor Hugo. He wrote a story in 1866, Toilers of the Sea. It's a story about a young man and an octopus. And so when I started looking up and learning about the octopus, guess what I found out? The octopus, when he feels threatened, what he does is he releases ink into the water. He makes it real dark and murky, so you can't see. And that way, when predators attack the octopus, he can escape. He can escape. When I heard the defendant's arguments, I was reminded of that story. So let me show you something. Carl. Where's the octopus? Can you find him? Where is it? Keep watching. There he is. So, I brought something for you that I want to show you before I jump into just a few of the points that I want to discuss with you that establish the defendant's guilt in this case, okay? Let me just show it to you real quick. Although I was born and raised in Harlem, New York, my family is from a little small town in South Georgia called Cordele, down below Macon. That's where I spent my summers. And my grandmama down there used to make preserves. This is just an old mason jar. It's got some old little creek water in it and some sand. But I brought it to you today because I wanted to illustrate a point to you. The state's case is like the water in this jar. It's clear. You can see through it to the facts and the evidence to get its truth. But for the last couple of hours, I suspect some of y'all have been shaken up a little bit by what the defense attorneys have been saying. I know because I watched y'all jot down a couple of notes. So let me tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to shake up this jar, okay? I'm going to shake up this jar. I'm going to shake it up real good. Shake it up the way maybe some of you all have been shook up by some of the things that the defense attorneys have been saying. And I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to make you a promise. By the time I get through with my argument and take my seat, this jar is going to be clear, just like it was when we started out. And it's going to be clear, just like each and every one of your minds will be clear about the guilt of this defendant. Carl, the first thing I want to talk to you about is 2005. 2005. The testimony has been that the defendant pursued Diane. Y'all remember that early on? And listen, I'm going to tell you something. We called a bunch of witnesses. The trial took a long time. I could look at your faces sometimes, and y'all were looking at me like, Mr. Rucker, what are you doing? Why are you calling this person? But the way that the presentation of evidence comes, it's not like TV. You don't get it all like in a 45-minute clip. It's a building process. And I have to trust that by the time we get to the end, you all have all the pieces that you need so that you can see through to the truth. The defendant pursued Diane. And when they got together, it had been a while since she had been in a committed relationship. And this is one of the first things that becomes really key in this case. This is what she said. We're going to keep our money separate. We're going to keep our money separate. And let me tell you why that's important. It's because she was independently wealthy. She didn't need the defendant. She wanted some companionship. And when they got together, this was the deal. I will take care of the condo and all the expenses. You have to handle the ranch. I've got the condo, you get the ranch. And in 2005, let me tell you what Diane McIver did. She gave the defendant $750,000. $750,000. And what she got back in return was her name on the deed. What that meant was that now the property was no longer owned solely by the defendant. They owned it jointly. We turned y'all into wills experts. I know if I asked you to tell me what that meant, y'all could tell me joint tenancy by right of survivorship. Jointly. That's key. That is really important. And as we go through this thing, I'm going to tell you why. Carl, we started out by telling you that this case was all about the defendant's attempt to maintain an image of wealth and power. You see, he got that ranch back in 1996. Y'all know he was from Texas, and he tried hard to create a Texas-like environment at that ranch. Bought him some cows, some horses. She gave him the money, and they built a saloon. Made a bunch of improvements to the property. It was looking pretty good. He was inviting all his friends out. He goes from being Claude McIver to Tex. And y'all have heard about all his relationships. We don't have to go through them. But it's that power and influence that he had. Now, his image is magnified when he's got Diane McIver on his arm. And I'm inviting everybody out to the ranch. Carl, now let me tell you something about the motive. This is a little small thing. During the interview at the Atlanta Police Department, this is one of the earliest things he said. They're talking about how it is that Danny Joe got to be the driver of the vehicle. And you see, that's important because in order for him to be in the position to do what he did, he couldn't be driving. So this is the lie, right? This is one of them. He says to Darren Smith in the beginning, well, hey, you know, Danny Joe was driving, but I like to be in control. And Darren Smith said, yeah, I do too. Meaning I like to drive too, to be in control. And then later on, when he's asked, hey, how much did you have to drink? He said, oh, just a couple sips. Red wine gives me a headache. We know that's a lie now. Why does he say that? He has to come up with an explanation for why he's in the back seat. He has to come up with an explanation for why he's in the back seat. And we're going to go on, we're going to get on that a little bit further later on. But can we make the clip play? He won't play. Okay. The ranch. This is what we know. It's his pride and joy. That's what Ann Swall said. You know, she loves the defendant. She's the mother of Austin. And that's a good-looking ranch. It wasn't worth half as much as it was after Diane put all her money into it. Now, let me tell you something about this note. This is in 2005. Dearest Diane, this letter summarizes the advances and deposits you have made to the various bank accounts which have not been matched by me. Wedding account, $25,000. Contribution account, construction account, $20,000. Farm account, $10,000. I understand it is my obligation to either repay or match these contributions as soon as possible after the wedding. In the meantime, the deed granting you an undivided 1/2 interest in the farm is in your possession. This is in evidence. Y'all have this back in the back. Carl. This is the problem with that. Because now that Diane is a joint owner of the ranch, each one of them have to figure out what happens to their interest in the ranch once they die. The defendant wanted to leave it to his son, Robbie. It was the only one of his kids that would even talk to him. And we all understand that. It's his legacy. But by 2011, when this email was written, Austin was a little boy. And she had long ago fell in love with him and decided that, you know what? I don't have any family. He is like a son to me. When I die, I want Austin to get the ranch. And from 2009 until 2016, they could not get that thing right. In their wills about how to leave this ranch. Why? Why? This was a source of contention with them. You can hear it in the tone of the email. She says to the defendant on January the 26th, 2011, I'm not wasting Ken's, you know that's Ken Rickards, time until you and I agree on what we are going to do. And this is what he says. Upon what do we not agree? All caps. Like he don't know. Of course he knows. Diane was a woman with a sharp, what? Tongue. The reason why I had so many people tell y'all that was I wasn't trying to waste your time. But listen, when I bump into you at Publix 10 years from now, and we talk about this case, we'll say, you know what do you remember about Diane? She had a sharp tongue. She would tell you exactly how she felt, without cutting any corners. She was a great businesswoman, and she was serious about her money. Even her friends. Danny Jo had been her friend for 40 years. She made her sign a contract, made her pay interest, and made her pay the money back. Y'all think there was an exception for this man over here? No. And that is what she is telling him in this email in 2011 when they were talking about this ranch. She said, we do not agree that I am going to leave my half of the ranch to your estate. They want you to believe that everything was all lovey-dovey. Truth of the matter is, for us that are in marriages and serious relationships, most folks don't know what's going on behind closed doors. The image that you portray to the rest of the world oftentimes is not the truth about what's really going on. And Diane was extremely private. This is a couple months later. If you really want to know if what I'm telling you is factual, a couple of months later, this is from Diane McIver to the defendant. It's an email. She says, Tex, I just read this email. Why are we going over there and wasting money? Diane was serious about this money thing. And now we know why, because these attorneys were charging them out the, you know what. Until you and I decide what we are going to do upon our death, for you to die before me and allow me to live there, we know that's joint tenancy with my survivorship, right? Until I die, and then turn it, what is it? It is the ranch, over to your estate, Mr. Defendant, is not an option for me. She was telling him back in 2011, I done put so much money in this ranch. I'm not leaving it to your son, Robbie, because I don't like it. That's why he didn't come around. And she states it. I keep it up for Robbie to get and sell when I die. Die. I bet if I asked her to finish that thought, she'd probably say, hell no. And y'all know that about her, based on the people that we call to tell you how she was. Carl, listen, this is a jail call, and this is what I want to do. I'm flagging it for you. And I wish somebody would just write down. Jail call from April 28th. 2017. Jail call. It's between Dixie and the defendant. And on the jail call, she is telling him, hey, listen, Robbie and his wife, Leslie, are coming down to stay on the farm. They say they want to help you out. And he says, oh, no. Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that. Don't let them do that, see, that'll bust up my plan. If they show up on the farm, because I had told Ann Schwab that I'm giving it to Austin, just like Diane wanted. Because I don't want people to think that that was part of the reason why I had to kill him. So Dixie said, what you talking about? They said that you were going to leave them the farm. They think they're going to get it. And he says, well, that was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. You know, before the stats. Y'all remember that? Before the stats. He says, I don't have him come down. This is my issue. And she says, Tex, that don't make no sense. Why don't you let them come down and help you? They think they're getting it, and I didn't tell them any different. You can hear it for yourself. I didn't tell them any different. And then this is what he says. I want you to listen real carefully. This is what he says. I can always just change my way. I can always just change my way. And give it to Robert like I wanted to in the first place. Because she's gone now. But until I deal with my issue, I got to pretend like I'm going to be the awesome. That is intent. It's motive that you can consider. He is guilty. He is guilty. Carl, let's go to the next one. Here it is right here. And Ann Schwab loves the defendant. Loves it. But she had to come in here on the oath and tell you a couple of things that, listen, are exactly what I've been telling you for the last few minutes. She says they were sitting in the kitchen at the ranch. Diane was in her right mind. This was a year or so before she got killed. She says Diane told her, I am leaving the ranch to Austin with enough money to take care of it. Y'all know the kind of person she was. You think she was kidding? She was a smart businesswoman. You know what her specialty was? Real estate. It was real estate. She made a fortune in real estate. She knew exactly what she was doing. Carl. So in 2011, when his money was starting to get a little tighter, she gave him a $350,000 loan. Man, must be good to have a woman take care of you like that. When I was a kid, there was this movie with this real famous actor. His name was Richard Gere. Young millennials don't know nothing about this. But it was American Gigolo. Huh? He used to go out and get women to take care of him. Y'all remember that? And when they would be out in public, oh, they'd be holding hands, kissing, acting like they were so much in love. In 2011, she put a clause in there that if you don't pay me back, I have a right to foreclose. She didn't give him forever to pay it back. She said, I'm going to give you 3 years now. $350,000. Did he have the ability to pay back even $150,000 a year? Let's just say that. Based on the salary? No. And for 3 years, he never paid one dime toward the person. He only paid the interest because she made him pay interest. What's that say to you about the kind of businesswoman she was? About the kind of relationship they really had? Was it just a marriage of convenience? One based on a business relationship? Let's see. Carl. So when the loan didn't get paid in 2014, she extended it. Except this time, let me tell you how Diane McIver was. She said, you know what? I'm looking at the situation. And he think I'm playing around with him about his money. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'll put another clause in here that says, you know what? It's not that I don't have to wait until you don't pay me. I can foreclose at any time. Anytime. Anytime. For any reason. any reason. And he didn't pay no principal. And as we sit here today, the loan is in default. Why? Why? Just heard the defense attorneys get up here and say, he wasn't in no dire financial distress. But they pay the money back. Pay the money back. Make him get a foot off your neck. He didn't because he couldn't. Because in 2014, he lost his equity partnership. That was big. That's big. Can anyone sitting in this room imagine how in the world you would be able to make it if you lost over half of your income? You got some problems. His solution was to rely on the sugar mama. She just take care of me. She just take care of us. She doesn't take care of me. The problem was she wasn't that kind of woman. And at what point would she have to use her sharp tongue and say, you know what, you're going to do something. Because man, I'm not going to keep on giving you this money. And you're not paying me back. That's not why I got with you. See, you were supposed to bring your bacon and put it on the plate, and I was going to put my eggs and put it on the plate. And then together we can have a meal that we can share. But if all we got on the plate is my eggs, and now I got to pay for the bacon too, I don't really need you. Do I? Well, let's see. On the day of the death, and y'all saw these slides, the day of the death, she had just given him $20,000. Y'all saw the check. It's in evidence. You can find it when you get back in the back. $20,000. She had given him a couple of weeks before he killed him. So I asked the experts, look at his bank account. Look at all the checks going in and out. Tell me how much money he had on the day of death. And this is what they said. A negative $5,301. He could take my money out. Are you kidding me? And this is Tex McIver. He's on the state election board. Friends with the government. Got judges who call him. He goes to lunch with. Famous people. He's always in capital. A negative $5,000. Carl. Diamond God. You know, when he killed Diamond God, you know, it's like hitting the lottery. Like in the lottery. Because if she stopped supporting him in the manner in which he was accustomed, he had a problem. He was in control either as executor or beneficiary of over $1 million. The second she died. Carl. $198,000 between 2013 and 2016. $198,000. Almost $200,000. In addition to the $350 I gave you, on top of the $750 I gave you. Dad was the one who was in control. Listen, remember this email? Y'all look at this. This is June of 2016. This is a couple of months before the murder. This is what the defendant says to his wife. I am seriously trying to reduce my monthly expenses. Why? Because his monthly expenses in the ranch alone were $20,000 to $25,000 a month. This is 2016. His partnership has been cut. He's only making a couple $100,000 a year. Knowing that the next year it's going to be even less, and then after that, he ain't going to make anything. What's he going to do? What does he say? I plan on hitting the lotto sometime this week. That is my biggest obstacle right now. I'm in the lot of them. I guess he made true on his promise to his wife. Because this is what she says to him. And this is why he knows as early as June, I'm going to have to do something. This arrangement is not working out. This is what she says with her sharp tongue. Make sure you read Javier's job description. He was a ranch hand. He made a couple $1,000 a month feeding the cows, cutting the grass. Read his job description. Because that is your next life chapter. That's what she said to her husband. When he says to her, hey, I'm trying to reduce my monthly expenses, pretty much what he's saying is, hey, I need help. Save you lots of moolah. You will be standing there with your hand out when I get in the door every Friday. This is what he said in response. Oh well, back to Gigolo. They're trying to play you like that's a joke. He's really just giving you a little glimpse about really who he is. Carl. With the 2006 will versus the new will. In 2006, based on the will that's being probated right now, the defendant, when he dies, he can leave the ranch to Rodney. We know that she didn't want that to happen. You got the jail call you listen to. The defendant gets all the residual estate from this will. She even got a cash request to Kathy Johansson, who she had not spoken to in 4 years. And in the 2006 will, her wedding ring goes to the defendant, which means when he dies, Rodney gets it. Why is that big? Because we know what kind of woman Diane was. She was a smart businesswoman. She didn't procrastinate. She was serious about that wedding ring because it was expensive. She didn't want his son to have it. Just like she didn't want him to have the ranch. She didn't like him. She wanted to leave it to Austin. That's what she told everybody. So listen, did she have a new will? A will where she could obtain ownership of the ranch and leave it to Austin Schwab like she wanted to? Did she change some of the cash bequeaths? Like some of these people came here and told you, she said. And when she had fixed it so that her wedding ring wouldn't go to the defendant, but instead it would go to Austin, just like Billy Corey said, he told the defendant he ought to do. You ought to put this jewelry up for Austin. Give it to him, piece by piece. How you know? Because in 2011, this is what Tex McIver said to the defendant and Harold Hudson when they were talking about redoing their wills. I'm still having a problem with Javier's deal. Austin's age should be, question mark, I would like to talk about that. Is there a better age to give to him? She's talking about the ranch. What happens if both of us die together? What happens to the ranch? I got too much invested in it right now. Why does Robbie get my wedding ring upon my death? Why is my trust paying for Texas education at this time of his life? Just taking my money. She loved Austin. And the only way she could leave the ranch to Austin, she had to foreclose on it. Which she could. And I'm not saying she would have kicked him off and said, you can't live here no more. Maybe she was saying, hey, it's okay if you stay, but listen, now, I'll take over the expenses. But she could do it. I'm paying for them anyway. But at least this way, I can leave it to the person who I love the most. I can ensure that, hey, somebody who's like my son, you get it with enough money that you can take care of. That would make me feel good. Was there a new will? She loves the defendant to this day. She came in here, this is what she said. Diane asked me to make some copies of the document. She said she asked me because she trusts me. The lady's been knowing Diane for 25 years. She says, I made the copies. I walked back in the office. I gave them to him. She said, thanks. This was a copy of my new will. That was late 2015, according to Stiles. Terry Brown said, I had the new will in my possession. don't know where it went from the office. Diane had a special safe in her condo. She had a special safe in her condo. One that most people didn't know about. And what we know from the evidence that the defendant got access to the safe while nobody was watching. Because the folks at Corey said, hey, just wait a minute, we want to be there, we know you. He did it anyway. By killing Diane, the defendant will regain sole ownership of the ranch. We know that he acquires her money as executor, and he acquires her money as the beneficiary, Carl. He was taking back his legacy, he was taking her money, and he was regaining control. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about Ken Ricker real quick. On Tuesday, September 27th, he's at the condo expressing condolences. He says that he is shocked by the response he gets from the defendant because the defendant says, hey, let's go outside the hallway. And on the way out there, he asks Ken Ricker, do you know how I can get Diane's Social Security check? This is on the day after she died. And then this is something that I would say to you is tantamount almost to a confession to motive. Because this is what the defendant says to Ken Ricker, unsolicited. See, Ken Ricker was the one who knew about Diane's finances, and the widow was he the one that drew up the documents. So he figured I got to communicate with Ken Ricker first to find out, let him know that I didn't have a financial motive to kill Diane. So he says, hey, listen, this weekend we were talking, and we were talking about restructuring our finances. What finances? Diane didn't have no problem with her finances. It was his finances. How are they going to restructure the finances? I'm just going to take over the ranch. How about that? That way you don't have to worry about this $20,000 to $25,000 every month. Because I'm giving it to you anyway. I just take it. Right? Don't even worry about it. That way I can just leave the office like I want to, Robbie won't get it, and we can just stop going back and forth with these bills. And the defendant admits he's only making $10,000 to $12,000 per month because of the income drop, but his expenses are $20,000 to $25,000 a month. How's he going to balance that out? All right. He's guilty. Killing Diane McIver solves all his problems. He is much better off with her dead than he is with her alive. Go to the next card. Let me talk to you about the shooting real quick. Listen, it was planned, it was intentional, and it was calculated. And let me tell you how. The defendant is a gun expert. He's a gun expert. We've heard so much testimony about his familiarity with guns. And listen, he knows about ammunition. He knows about gunshot residue. And this gun had two types of ammunition in it. Two of the bullets were the kind of bullets that go through things. The other three were the kind that go in and stop. He knew that. He knew that. He also knows how hard it is to pull the trigger on this gun. So how am I going to craft the justification for having to pull the trigger? Well, let's talk about it. Because what we know is there's no DNA on the trigger, and we know he was such a good marksman that he could shoot a water bottle while it's in the air. A water bottle while it's in the air. Before it's burning. He placed the gun in a plastic bag. Why? When everybody says all he ever talked about was gun safety. Muzzle awareness. Some of y'all own guns. Some of y'all own guns. When have you ever thought about putting a gun in a plastic bag and just carrying it around? Doesn't make any sense for a man like him to do that. And where's the evidence that they were breaking in at his job? Where's that evidence? The defense has no burden. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to call any witness. But if you go call a witness, it would seem like you just call somebody and say, hey, there's a bunch of break-ins down here. That's what she does. That's because this is a lie. He didn't normally keep that gun in no plastic bag. Danny Joe said she saw it. It was just laying in the console. And the holster was in the console. Why would you keep the gun in the holster? Don't make no sense. For a gun expert, flying around in the truck. Why? You want to keep it safe? How about locking it in the console? Locking it in the glove box. I put it in the trunk, in a little compartment, back there where can't nobody get to it. Carl, you remember this? Why is he lying about this? Why is he lying about this? He wants you all to believe, right, that he could never intentionally shoot his wife. He wants you to believe that it was an accident. He doesn't really know that much about guns. So he told the police department, I ain't fired that gun in so long. It was just, I had it just on my lap. I was handling it. And it just went off. And then when he's interviewed, got the video. He says, guns are not my thing. Listen. It's not gonna play. Ooh, I'm having technical difficulties. Y'all, technical difficulties. But listen, the tape is in. I know y'all saw it. It was a riveting day when it played. And you know that he says to a reporter, guns are not my thing. Did y'all see all the guns? I had it on the tape. Did y'all see all the guns? And all the different revolvers that are just like the gun he used to shoot and kill his wife. Why would he lie about that? It's because he is guilty. He is guilty. Carl, his plan. His plan. This is Tanner McKinney. Young kid. Brought him in. You know, nobody ever talked to him from the Atlanta Police Department. We found out all the people that was at the ranch. We tried to track him down, interview him, find out what was going on. This is what he said. Knew the defendant for 5 years. This young kid didn't have no motivation to lie. None whatsoever. It's undisputed. They didn't present no evidence to challenge Tanner. That this man sitting right over there pulled him to the side and said, hey, do you think you can take Danny Joe home? And he kind of looked at him like, what? I know you can imagine. Man, that is all the way in Atlanta. We live in Athens. Why are you? No, I'm not going to take Danny Joe home. But you see, if you took Danny Joe home, he'd be alone in the ranch with Diana Guy. They keep talking about, why did he kill her at the ranch? Why did he kill her on I-20? Maybe that was the original plan. She would have an accident at the ranch. And see, this was so unusual because this was the first time in all of the years that Danny Joe had been coming out to the ranch that she actually rode with him in the same vehicle. It was the first time. What's the coincidence of that? Kind of screwed him up. See, normally she drives herself down there because she brings her little niece and they play with Austin. But Austin would come this trip. So it was kind of prime right if something's going to happen. But I got this problem with Danny Joe. And so he says, well, you know what? I'm going to have to go to maybe a plan B. Carl. So this is what happens. At the Longhorn, where we know he had been taking some sips from the Yeti, right? Because it was passed back and forth. Why do you know about that? Police asked him how much he had to drink. He said he just had a couple sips. That's a lie. I imagine him trying to get his nerve up, though. He loves red wine. Why would you lie to the police about such a little thing? Red wine gives me a headache. This is what we know. The defendant admits he was awake at the exit ramp. And y'all remember Ken Ricker? The defense attorney was talking to you about the unintentional discharge that he explained to us about. Well, guess what? Guess what? What did Danny Joe say? She and Diane was talking about in the car on the way to Atlanta. They were talking about Ken Ricker's unintentional discharge. They were laughing about it. They were laughing about it. He was sitting in the back seat. Aha. 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 It was an accidental discharge that came inside the car. When they get off of Edgewood, he's awake at the exit ramp. And Diane directs Danny Joe to turn left. He is actually talking. He says, hey, girls, this is a bad idea. Some of y'all are familiar with that area. What is he talking about? People approaching the car at Law&Crime, trying to, in a threatening and aggressive manner. That's what he says. They were all around the vehicle as they're going down underneath the underpass on a Sunday evening. And then he says to Bill Crane, hey, the group of homeless people, they could have been Black Lives Matter protesters. Let me tell you why he says that, Bill Crane. Because by the time 3 or 4 days after the shooting has gone by, this whole notion that, hey, I had to get my gun because of some homeless people, listen, we all from Atlanta. Nobody ever got no gun because you see a homeless person. It's unreasonable. It's unreasonable. But that's his justification for having a gun. And that's what people were telling him. Hey man, that sounds kind of crazy. Some homeless people? Like, don't you work downtown? Aren't you always going to the Capitol, like right up and down Piedmont? You know, the Capitol is located on Piedmont and MLK, right behind this building. You go down and down Piedmont all the time. You get back and forth to work, you only live on work on 12th Street. What you talking about, some homeless people? Well, okay, see, Bill, listen. I thought they were Black Lives Matter protesters. You know, they tend to be kind of violent. We've seen the news reports. I was watching the news. Bill, I was scared. I was scared. And when he tells me the Texas APD, it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I was so scared. That's the reason why I asked for the gun. That's the reason why I have it in the back seat with me, loaded. See, in a plastic bag. Well, I put my hand on the outside of it, not getting GSR on my hands. He didn't know that wasn't going to work. This was a terrible plan. There is no good plan to intentionally kill a person. But I can keep a DNA from being on the gun, and guess what? If necessary, I can just come on the story. I can just make a story about it. Because I can't go to jail, but I have to get Diane off my neck. So, he asks for the gun, tells her it's in the console. He gets the gun, and he is still talking. He's on Piedmont Road at this point. Danny Joe doesn't perceive any danger, no threat. She and Diane are still talking. And you know they don't because neither one of them say anything to him about it. Diane's been drinking. That's just Tex being Tex. And she drives unimpeded down Piedmont Avenue toward the park. Y'all been that route before yourselves, personal lives. It's only a couple miles. And it's like Dr. Preston said, it's not like he was just speculating about whether or not he was awake or not. This is what he was saying to you. He said, well, listen, there's some science associated with anxiety, stress, and fear. And so I can tell you, like, you know, he's having this physiological reaction. He got hair standing up on the back of his neck. That was no literal thing. He's trying to tell the detective that's the reason why I had the gun, because I was scared. I was that scared. So the doctor takes him at his word. He says, well, you know, if you were that scared, so scared that you got a loaded gun to protect yourself, you had it in your lap, so you say, why in the world would you go back to sleep? How could you? It just really defies common sense because it's not that far from where you say you had the fear and where you shot your wife. It just don't make no sense. So what's the other conclusion? You intended to do it. Man like you, gun expert, having financial problems, arguing about this ranch. Listen, Black Lives Matter is not about race. It's about the justification for having a gun in the back seat. Because this is what he figured out after talking to his lawyers all week long. If there is no justification for the gun, that equals intent. You got to come up with a reason, man, why you mad at this gun in the first place. There's no Black Lives Matter on protests on Edgewood. And there was no bump. Because the first story was to Bill Crane, hey, it was just an unintentional discharge, like Ken Ricker suffered. Except Ken Rickers was different. He admits he had his finger on the trigger. He said, I was just unfamiliar with the guns. I'm not a gun person. And when I took the magazine out, I pulled the slide back. There was one in the chamber for people who have semi-automatic handguns. I had my finger on the trigger, pow. I pulled it, and the gun fired. That's not what he's saying. He's saying I was just holding it. He told so many people, it just went off. It just went off. That's a lie. Why is he lying? It's because he is guilty. Carr, the gun is in perfect working condition. Carr, guns don't just go off. Carr, it was aimed. And the reason why you can conclude that is because y'all did sit in the vehicle yesterday. You saw, we only had the probe come out just far enough where you could still get in. But you could get in that vehicle and close the door, put your arm right there on that armrest, rest your hand down, hold the gun upright, and create that same trajectory. It was right to left. What was the gun doing here on the right side? With his hand around the grip and his finger inside of the trigger guard. Why? Why? Even in his own statement, he says, the danger was gone. The danger was gone. So why didn't you just get the gun back? Why didn't you sit it on the seat next to you? Why didn't you put it on the floor in between your feet? Your darling, your soulmate, the one that you love more than anything in this world is sitting just inches in front of you. Why would you put her in that kind of danger if you loved her so much and you are so familiar with guns? Remember this? This is where you said he had it. We know this is inconsistent. We know right to left. Right to left. And they're trying to make you think he had it down. It wasn't down. Y'all sat in the car, you saw the rod go through it. It goes upward through the seat. And it's almost a perfect shot, like a marksman shot. Because it's almost in the middle of the seat. And it's not center mass, but it's where your heart would be. And he just missed it by centimeters. Remember this? This is their explanation to you about how he was holding the gun. Despite every single person I ever asked, did he ever show you how he was holding it? They all say no. Why not? Why not? Isn't that the issue in this case? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Look, this is what Danny Jo said she saw seconds after she heard the shot. Freeze it. You see how she has it? Right to left. Right to left. Above her thigh, which is where he was holding it. And what's he doing right there? Is he trying to wipe off gunshot residue off his hands? Is he trying to get the bag from being not stuck to the muzzle of the gun because we know that it was hot down there? Carr. Mr. Harvey tried to give y'all some stuff about, the elbows out the car. Listen, when you close the door, y'all know this, because I saw every last one of you almost get in there and close the door. Your arm just fits right there on the armrest. You ain't got to jam it all the way back in there like they trying to make it seem like. Carr, how about this? I had a little rhyme for y'all, you know, kind of if the seat was reclined, then McIver should, but listen, it's reclined. And the point I want to make about this is it gives him more room to get that arm in the right angle. See, by having it on the right side, Danny Joe can't really see way over there when she's driving. Danny Joe didn't know what he was doing back there. She wanted to believe it was an accident when she talked to the police. But the truth of the matter is she couldn't drive and look back there at the same time to tell you what he was doing. We know that. She couldn't imagine that he would do something like this because she didn't know about their finances. She didn't know he lost his partnership. She didn't know that he was going broke, meaning he was cash poor. We already saw this demonstration with the photographs, and this was pretty important here. The defendant's attorney, first thing he says to the police, 1, Tex did not play with the hammer. What does that mean? We do know what position that gun was in. Because if the hammer was pulled back, that's what he would have said. He didn't play with the hammer. It was not pulled back in full cock. It was not pulled back in full cock. So let me tell you an example of some muddy water that you get sometimes from defense attorneys, okay? Give an example. If he was asleep and his attorney got this information from him, how would he know that the gun was not in full cock? Because he was asleep, right? Right? He knows it wasn't in full cock because he wasn't asleep. He was awake. And he is trying to come up with an explanation to tell the police. Because when the gun is not in full cock, it's double action, which means it's harder to pull. It's harder to pull. But you see, that is the safety feature. And for a gun expert, he knows that. It is unsafe to ride around with the gun with the hammer pulled back in single action. Because it only takes 2 1/4 pounds to pull the trigger. Y'all try it with the gun. Ask the judge if you can do it. I'm sure he'll let you do it, supervise with the deputy. Try it. Do it with one hand, see if you can do it. Try 12 1/4 pounds. Your hand will shake just like Weissel's. It's hard. You got to mean to do it. Intend to do it. And then try it in 2 1/4. Ross Gardner. I don't know, and I know Mr. Gardner. But listen, on this one right here, even he said, I couldn't have said it no better. A lot of critical errors. He was wrong about a lot of stuff. And again, the seat don't decline, which is what he said. Check your notes. He said, oh no, the seat doesn't recline. It won't recline. That's not true. And that's a big deal in this case. For a guy who was an accident reconstructionist, that's a big deal. And I was asking like little basic stuff about the numbers, like how tall, he don't know. He don't know. He's just trying to say what he can say so that he can help out the defendant. Carl, he was awake at the Edgewood ramp. He was awake when he asked for the gun. He had a biological response to fear. He had anxiety, stress, and fear. That's what Dr. Pressman said. He was awake on Piedmont. It's only a couple of miles to the park. It's impossible to fall asleep in just a few minutes. That's what Pressman told you, given all of the circumstances. And that just makes sense. Carl, intentional slowing around. Let me tell you what I mean about that. Carl, I put this in here just to make y'all laugh. Y'all remember that? It's a sign from outside the defendant's house. Huh? Our place is like the Wild Wild West. We don't call 911. How prophetic that turned out to be in this case, huh? Carl. Grady. Here's the Corey Tower right here. This is where Diane worked. Right here. This is the Grady Curve. It's Grady Hospital. The defendant was over at Corey all the time over the course of the last 15 years. You trying to tell me he didn't know Grady was the best level 1 trauma center in this part of the country, that is just unreasonable. Who could live in Atlanta for 40 years and not know about Grady? Who? And he's a news junkie, remember? Every morning you turn on the TV, they talk about somebody had to go to Grady because they got shot. What is he talking about? And he drives right past Emory Midtown every day, blocks away from where he works. Piedmont is right down the road. Atlanta Medical is a couple of miles away. There are 4 other options that are closer before you get to Emory. It's in another county. But this is what he knows. If you want to intend to kill a person, there are 2 places you can shoot them to pretty much guarantee it. You shoot them in the head and you shoot them in the heart. Been too conspicuous to shoot it in the head, can't really come up with an accidental discharge where the gun is way up here like this and I get it in the head. But you know what? Let me get my angle right. And I bet I could pop her right in the heart. And if we just kind of slow around for a minute, she would bleed out, just like she did. And it took 10 minutes to get to Emory. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Why couldn't you just pick up the phone if this wasn't no intentional killing? Just pick up the phone and say, hey, woo, Lord, somebody please help me. I done shot my wife accidentally. We are on Piedmont. I'm headed to Emory. Can somebody be waiting on us? Can y'all tell me what to do? I don't see no blood, but she's unconscious. Somebody please help me. Please help my baby. Maybe the 911 operator would say, hey, sir, stop. Where are you? Stay right there. It's a fire station just right around the corner. I'll get them to respond to you. They'll be there in a minute. 2, we'll start life-saving measures immediately. We'll call ahead to Grady. They'll get the surgeons ready because that's what they do. As soon as she pull up, we'll take her straight to OR. And we might be able to save her life. Because as much as Emory tried to do, and they are some outstanding professionals, the truth of the matter is Dr. Sellers didn't get there till 11:30. She got to the hospital at 10:15. Man, what if she had gotten to Grady in 10 or 15 minutes after the shooting? She'd still be here today. And the defendant knew that because while he was at Emory, that's what the doctors told him initially. Hey, man, to try to give him some hope. I think she's going to be all right. I think she's going to be all right. She's hanging in there. We got a blood pressure on her. She's fighting. That's what he called Steve Maples. So he called Steve Maples at 10:47. 10:47. 30 minutes after they got there. Right? He never said to Danny Joe, go faster. He said, be careful. And the intentional slowing down equals severe blood loss, and the blood loss was the cause of death, based on a gunshot wound. These folks did everything they could to save her life. But it's a research hospital, not a level 1 trauma center. I went to school at Emory. This is one of the best research institutions, cancer research, one of the best in the country. But it's not where you want to go if you got a gunshot wound. And listen, despite all these medical professionals who did everything they could to try to save Diamond McIver's life, 15 people by my count working that night to try to save her. And when they get called in here to testify during this case, what happens to them? They get attacked, disrespected, and yelled at. And the defense attorneys want to say, shame on me, shame on you. Shame on you. You didn't have no reason to pick on these people. What motivation do they have to lie? They don't even know this man sitting over here. Instead of saying thank you for doing everything you could to save my wife, they want to call him in here and call him a bunch of liars. like Ms. Cyclewala. What motivation she got to lie? You see, the defendant had to come up with a bunch of stories. Because the truth was going to put him in jail. And Dr. Marty Seller said, hey, when I was trying to give him the news that his wife didn't make it, we were sitting in a conference room. He walked in, the other doctor said, hey, sir, please have a seat. Don't tell me what to do, boy. Really? To the two doctors who had just been fighting to save your wife's life? What does that say about his state of mind? Was he thinking about his darling, his soulmate at that time? And he even lies about this, because when he talks to APD, and I know y'all remember this, he's sitting there and he says, I think I'm going to cry. But this was a situation I would never forget. While I was at Emory, I was sitting down in the waiting area, and I saw these two surgeons walk down this long hallway towards me with the chaplain. And I turned around and looked behind me to see if there was somebody back there. But they were coming to see me. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It's because it's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. But I'm trying to make the police think that I do not have a motive to intentionally shoot my wife. Because I'm telling people that I love her so much. And that's one of those stories, right, that you see on TV, right? It's when you're trying to convince people. And that's what he's trying to do to you. Don't fall for it. This is pretty much what he says at the hospital. Shot in the bathroom, I was cleaning my gun. Dr. Shaler, what I established is when I talked to her the first time, when her memory was a whole lot sharper than it was a year later when she testified, she said she was holding the gun behind her back and the gun went off. That's what the defendant told her. And so I had to make her stand up. I said, well, demonstrate for the jurors the way you demonstrated for me what he told you. She did like this. It was an accident. Then he told the young lady who was trying to just really comfort him up in the waiting area, I'm coming from a retreat in Conyers. I blacked out and I don't remember. Why would they lie? They don't have any reason to lie. He lies because he's guilty. And if you believe the nurses, then the defendant is guilty. He is guilty. Carl. Some of the staff says he appears intoxicated. First phone call was made by the defendant to his criminal defense lawyer. He didn't call Austin. He didn't call Billy Corey. He didn't call his sister. He called his lawyer, who showed up with a notepad, a pen, and some business cards. Carl. We know about this testimony. She's at the hospital for approximately an hour and 15 minutes before the surgery. We know about Danny Joe's first interview, and the defendant repeatedly calls her because he's trying to find her. Trying to see what she's doing, who she's talking to. Because remember, what he said to her is, listen, I don't trust them guys out there. I know how these things go. What's he talking about? What's he talking about? Why don't you just say that you just got down here, you were just a family friend? See, he believed that he could manipulate Danny Joe. That's what he thought. And he thought by shooting Diane McIver in the vehicle that way, one, Danny Joe couldn't see what in the world he was doing back there. He could use the excuse that he heard them talking about, that Ken Rickard accidentally discharged his gun, which coincidentally, do you remember what Danny Joe said was the first thing out of his mouth? The gun discharged. Is that a coincidence? Or is that evidence? And he knew that Danny Joe would never believe that he would intentionally kill his wife. And here's the first thing she said. Must have been an accident. We got some lies. And 2 lawyers, 2 days, no tears, right? Had plenty of opportunity to get the story together. And you all have heard the transcript, testimony, and the video of the defendant's interview with APD. He lies about little things, he lies about big things. Cara? We know that Dr. Sellers and Dr. Saeed are already inside the family room. We know that the walk-up part never happened. We've kind of covered this. But Dr. Sellers, more importantly, says the defendant showed none of the universal signs of grief. He says the gun went off. Let me tell you something. This case doesn't have nothing to do with no sleep disorder. Nothing. That's just a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of baloney. Cara, it's another one of the lies. Red wine gives me a headache. Look at all this wine. Are you kidding me? Cara, another lie. Worth 2.5 times more than her estate. That's just a lie. These are all little bitty lies. I was holding her hand when we went to the hospital. They brought a gurney out. I had a couple of sips. Lie, 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 lie. Cara, I'm going to talk to you very briefly about this. I call it the immorality. It's the ashes, it's the auction, and it's Annie. Cara. On Tuesday, cataloging her jewelry, long before he ever talks to Stan Smith about doing that to satisfy the will bequeaths. Why? He got money on his mind. No grief, just greed. It's over a week later before he hires Stan Smith. By the time we get to December, we got the estate sale. 2,500 items. Let me tell y'all something. He sold her hats, shoes, purses, her fur coats. Why? Why? He didn't care about Diane McIver. He just wanted her money. There's no good reason to do that. Because guess what? The people in the will who were supposed to get their money, they still ain't got their money. And y'all have seen hundreds of thousands of dollars flow into that estate account and flow out. They still haven't been paid. Why? He never intended to pay them. Look at all this stuff. He got rid of every single thing that this lady owned for the almighty dollar. This ain't no Chef Tex, Southern gentleman. He's a guilty murderer. And just because he is older, just because of his status in life, doesn't mean that he couldn't have intentionally killed his wife. Listen, how about the ashes? He could have picked them up 3 days after her death. It was only $1,600. Are you kidding me? $1,600 to be reunited with your soulmate. We know that on the 19th, he got $269 into the estate account, of which he's the executor. How hard is it to write a $1,600 check? He done sent a check to the 31st. He had written a bunch of checks before then. Y'all had a check registry back there. Took him 42 days. Pick up his wife's remains. Cara, look, and that's where I found him. Eight months after her death, she was stuffed in a drawer, a dresser drawer, tucked back in a closet, in a cardboard box. It's just not right. It's not right. And I'm asking y'all to do something about it. Cara, Annie Anderson. Listen. Never said they had sex. This is what I am saying. It just don't look right. I don't care how you cut it, Mr. Defendant. It just don't look right. And it is not consistent with the person that you have portrayed yourself to be. Is it? Who does that? Who does that? She stayed with him from the date of Diane's death until October the 3rd. Every day. Every day. She didn't sleep in the pull-out bed. Oh, in the spare bedroom. You know, it's a bedroom all the way on the other side of the condo. On the couch. This man was no more suicidal than the man on the moon. He was negotiating business all that week. Talking to Bill Crane on the phone. Getting his PR story together. Suicidal. That's an insult. He cares about himself more than anything else in this world. She stayed in his bedroom. Are you kidding me? The marital bedroom. Where Diane had just been. She gave him a massage. Danny Joe saw him laying on the bed. Then she drove Diane's Jaguar to the ranch. Weighing Diane's boots. It just doesn't look right for a man who is supposed to be grieving over the accidental death of his wife. Really looks like he was glad she was gone. Carl, remember this? Terry Brown didn't have a reason to lie. He says, hey, I was talking to Tex in October. We was going over some finances. He said, I thought Diane had more money than this. But something that he did say that I didn't want to tell anybody because it just hurt me so bad. The defendant said, hey, Janie Calhoun, she's having problems with Les, her husband. I know I can get her back. $320,000 recklessly spent. $187 to lawyers. He even paid Jeff Dickerson out of Diane's estate. Carl. He hid the SUV at James Hughes' house. Had it cleaned up. Got rid of all the evidence. Influence. Count 5. Just say you're a family friend. He is guilty. He did try to mislead her. She said, Tex, I can't say that. I just drove you in here. Well, they don't know that. Why did he need Danny Joe Carter to lie? It's so that he could come up with his own story about how this happened and avoid going to jail. And then Tom Carter, he leaves him a voicemail and says, Danny Joe is going to send me to prison. This is nuclear for me. And this is what this next line tells you about the defendant's state of mind. Delete this message. Delete it from who? The police. That's who. That's who. Don't want nobody to hear me say this. Bill Crane, family friend, volunteered to help him, repeatedly pressured him to lie. Why? Jeff Dickerson, the success fee. He was only hired for 2 things. Because of the Black Lives Matter statement, and he's known the DA for 20 years. He wanted him to bribe the DA to make the case go away. He's guilty. He's guilty. Diane is the one who paid Jeff Dickerson's fee. How ironic is that? Carl. Now I'm going to spend just the last few minutes just talking to you for a minute about Diane McIver. Self-made, she's from Alabama. We know she had no biological family. She started out as a bookkeeper. She told Elaine, my greatest fear is to not have enough money to live the kind of lifestyle I want to. She was great with numbers, specialized in real estate, owned several companies, president and CEO of U.S. Enterprises. She was a multi-millionaire. She had a sharp tongue, but she loved Austin. She had an extravagant lifestyle. She wanted her personal loans formalized. She loved her Corey family. And she absolutely loved Danny Joe Carter. They had the best friendship ever. Because when Danny Joe fell out of life, She took her back. And they had this real special bond together. In fact, this thing affected Danny Jo so bad, she took a drink for the first time the night after Diane died. I started out my presentation by asking you a question. Who will stand for Diane McIver? Who will stand for Diane McIver? Carla. Diane tried to stand up for herself in her last waking moments. Dr. Suzanne Hardy asked her a question. Dr. Suzanne Hardy asked her a question. Do you want to see your husband? I'm about to put this tube down your mouth. You're not going to be able to speak. Diane knew she was going. She said to her over and over again, am I dying? Am I dying? We've talked to folks. They'll tell you, especially old people, they know you know. And so she asked her a question. Listen, you told me that it was an accident. Do you want to see your husband? And she said, no. No. And I just wanted you to see the aftermath of the defendant's actions. She's been reduced now to a simple number, except in the minds of the people who loved her. Carla, who will stand for Diane McIver, a great woman she tried to be? Ladies and gentlemen, will you stand? Will you stand for Diane McIver as she cries out, who will stand for me? Stand up for Diane. Y'all stand up for Diane. It has been my privilege and my honor to present this case to you on her behalf and on behalf of the citizens of Fulton County, my colleagues, the district attorney, and the state of Georgia. Thank you.